Welcome to the Deep Dive, and today we are really jumping into the deep end, unpacking a really foundational text in Unification theology.
We are. Our source is an address from 1977 given by Reverend Sun Myung Moon on True Parents' Day.
Right, it's the 18th anniversary address, and it's basically a roadmap, isn't it?
It's the whole cosmic structure, really. It lays out why the fall happened, what this process of restoration is all about, and, of course, the central role of the true parents. If you want to get your head around concepts like indemnity or lineage reversal, this is the text.
Okay, so before we go any further, we should probably define true parents. That term is obviously pretty central.
It's the starting point. The true parents are presented as the restored Adam and Eve, the standard of perfected, unfallen humanity. Their whole role is to cut off the satanic lineage that supposedly began with the fall and, establish the foundation for God's kingdom here on earth.
Got it. So with that in mind, the address kicks off by mentioning 4 major annual celebrations. These aren't just holidays, are they?
No, not at all. They're about cosmic recreation. You have God's Day, Parents' Day, Children's Day, and World Day. And they're all about celebrating the spiritual and physical rebirth of, well, everything.
A rebirth. So the idea is that something was lost.
Exactly. The address says that if the fall had never happened, these would just be days of joy everyone would inherit automatically.
But it did happen. Which brings us to the core problem this whole theology is trying to solve. What exactly was the fallout from that original failure?
Well, it was a universal catastrophe. The
Yeah.
text is very specific. It says, joy was lost for God, for the true parents, for true children, and for all of creation. And because of that, every person is now born in sorrow.
Wow. And that radiates outwards, right? It even damaged God's dignity.
Precisely. Mankind fell into what's described as dungeons of hell. The angelic world fell. All of creation, animals, nature, everything was all dragged down with them. It created this world trapped in sorrow.
So if that's the symptom, the address gives a diagnosis. It calls it the disease of fallen love. What exactly is that?
It's love that's centered on Satan, which means it's driven by self-centeredness. This desire for, immediate self-gratification completely ignored the relationship with God. Fallen love is basically loving yourself more than God, and that act makes you Satan's heir.
So if the problem started with a bad love transaction, self-centeredness winning out, then the cure has to be a total reversal.
A complete spiritual overhaul. Exactly. You have to move from self-centered love back to a totally unselfish, God-centered love. That's the most basic principle of restoration. Heaven isn't some place you go after you die. It's something you build here on earth by practicing that kind of love.
Okay, that brings us to the formula for how you actually do that, because you're born into this fallen state, so just trying to be good isn't going to cut it, is it?
No, and there are two sides to this. From God's perspective, he's offering salvation. He's throwing out a lifeline. But from our side, from man's point of view, it's a fight for restoration, like a sick person having to actively work to get healthy again.
And that's where this principle of indemnity comes in. The idea that you have to pay a debt of sin. Let's unpack that, because it's a heavy concept.
It is. Indemnity is basically reparation. You have to pay a spiritual price that's equal to the damage that was done. And the damage from the fall was huge. So to liquidate that debt, you have to endure indemnity, pain, suffering. The analogy used is that true medicine is almost always bitter.
And love is the key that makes this possible. The address really stresses that true love is this unchanging condition that lets you leap across millennia.
Because true love is seen as this eternal force. It's outside of time and space. So if you can embody that original God-centered love, you instantly align yourself with the ideal no matter when you live. It's the master key.
This idea leads directly to Jesus and what the address calls a radical trade of love. What was this trade he was demanding?
It was a bombshell, really. Jesus brought this perfect heavenly love, and he demanded man's absolute best worldly love in return. To get into the kingdom, you had to love him more than anyone.
More than your spouse, your parents, your own kids.
More than anyone. It's an incredible claim that just completely upends the natural order of human relationships.
And that must have seemed, even today, that sounds like an attack on the family. How does the text justify that as necessary?
Because the fall happened when human love was put above God's love. So to reverse it, you have to prove your vertical loyalty to God is stronger than any horizontal bond. By telling people to love him more than their own parents, he was seen as a homewrecker. And that's what directly led to the accusations of blasphemy and, his crucifixion.
So that path of suffering is what defines the messianic path.
Fundamentally, yes. The Messiah isn't supposed to come in glory, but in misery. They have to absorb the world's pain, take all the attacks, and never ever seek revenge. Just endure with God's patience. The text says any religion that really teaches that path will eventually meet the Messiah.
Okay, so if Jesus walked that path perfectly, why wasn't the mission finished? What was left incomplete?
Well, he achieved a huge spiritual victory. By forgiving his enemies on the cross, his spirit was so pure that it broke free from the satanic realm. Total spiritual liberation.
Yeah.
But he was crucified before he could establish the physical foundation.
Meaning a family.
Meaning a family. Before he could marry, have sinless children, and actually build the kingdom of God on earth. So only spiritual salvation became possible.
And that's where the Unification Church sees its mission coming in.
That's the connection. The Spirit of Jesus acts as the spiritual father, the Holy Spirit as the spiritual mother, but the physical part was left undone. The Unification Church's purpose is to take on that physical messianic road, to start at the absolute bottom and rise to the throne, both spiritually and physically.
And the word unification itself is about.
It's about bringing all religions back together, under God's original standard. But the motive has to be completely pure, just for God and humanity. The second the organization itself becomes the goal, that's when Satan gets a hook in.
This translates into a very specific program for members, right? The 7-year course. It sounds less like a slow process and more like a spiritual sprint.
That's a good way to put it. It's a recreation course, mirroring the 7 days of creation. The end goal for every single member is to become a true parent themselves. And there are 3 very clear stages to get there.
Okay, walk us through them.
Stage 1 is separation from the satanic world. You're sort of elevated to the position of an unfallen angel. Innocent, but not yet mature.
Okay.
Stage 2 is the growth level. That's where you reach the status of a restored Adam and Eve as a perfect couple. And stage 3 is the parents level, where you have your own children born in the name of God, totally free from that satanic lineage.
Now, a key condition before you can even get married, before the blessing, is finding spiritual children. Why is that so important?
It's a condition of indemnity. Members have to find 3 spiritual children in 3 years. These 3 represent the 3 archangels who fell. So by restoring 3 people, you're symbolically restoring creation to its proper place, serving the central figure. Once you do that, you've earned the right to get the blessing.
And the blessing itself is the marriage ceremony that formally cuts the satanic lineage.
It's the cosmic ceremony, yeah. It severs the old lineage and grafts you into the new, God-centered one. It's the ultimate act of physical restoration.
But there's one more condition for total freedom that's just mind-blowing. You need your chief accuser to sign off.
Yeah. You have to reach a state of purity where Satan himself looks at you and has nothing left to accuse you of. You have to walk through his world, take all the suffering, and respond with such pure love that he's forced to admit you won. Only then are you truly free.
Let's zoom out and look at history. The address says God actually structured all of history into 3 eras to make this restoration possible.
Right, it's all part of the formula. The Old Testament era was for restoring things, creation. The New Testament era was for restoring the children, or sons. And now the completed Testament era is for restoring the parents, the final piece.
And within that history, you have this constant struggle, the Cain side versus the Abel side.
That dynamic is everything. The fall reversed the proper order when Cain killed Abel. So restoration means the younger brother, the Abel side, has to win over the older brother, the Cain side, and bring about unity. It's about reversing that original act of division.
This formula is also used to explain some really tricky stories in the Bible. Specifically, Jacob and Tamar, whose actions involve deception and, well, adultery. How does the theology square that?
This is where that idea of lineage reversal is so crucial. Eve, the original fallen mother, deceived God and Adam to try and save herself. Her motive was self-centered. But Tamar risked everything, her life, her honor, for one reason: to secure her place in the righteous lineage. It was an act of absolute loyalty.
So her risky, deceptive act established a condition of total obedience that countered Eve's failure. It cleansed the lineage.
Exactly. Her actions were blessed because they paid the indemnity needed to ensure Jesus could be born into a lineage that Satan couldn't touch. And again, this is all physical. The address is so clear on this. You cannot build the kingdom of heaven in the spirit world until you first build it right here on earth.
So let's bring it to the time of the speech, 1977. The Unification Church is under immense pressure in America. There's government opposition, religious opposition, fallout from Watergate. How did they see all that persecution?
As proof they were on the right track. The address says that the persecution is a sign that they're close to total liberation. That whole period, 76 and 77, wasn't a setback. It was seen as the final, necessary showdown to pay the last bit of indemnity.
And the peak of that showdown was the Washington Monument Rally in 1976.
A huge moment. That rally was considered the ultimate worldwide offering to God, paid for with the members' sweat and sacrifice. It was a visible, public victory against all the opposition. And because they pulled it off, Reverend Moon declared that the pledge with God was fulfilled, which allowed him to declare total liberation in early 1977.
Which is when he declares the New Age, year one, and issues some pretty intense warnings to America.
Yes, a new sovereignty was declared.
Yeah.
And the warning was absolute. If America, as the leading Christian nation, opposes this new sovereignty, it will face ruin. But if it repents and accepts it, there's hope. It was a declaration that the time was up, restoration had fully arrived.
And all the fundraising, all the witnessing, it's all part of that. Reclaiming energy from the satanic world and offering it back to God.
Every dollar, every person is seen as taking back something that was stolen by Satan and offering it up to pay off that final indemnity debt.
So as we wrap up, what is the final standard for someone walking this path today?
The standard is unchanging. Absolute, unconditional, unselfish love. And the path requires a level of sacrifice that, according to this address, has to be even greater than the suffering of Jesus. Because the goal isn't just spiritual salvation, it's total victory on earth in the physical body.
To achieve that ultimate vision of becoming true parents themselves.
That's the end goal. The vision is for the true parents to make all the members into true parents in their own right, expanding this restored world from one family out to the entire cosmos. What we've talked about isn't just theory, it's the principle that was lived. So the real question it leaves you with is, do you have the conviction to inherit that mission, to fulfill that absolute condition of unselfish love that's required for this cosmic restoration?